So we've decided on Pauper for our cube, and in the last episode of the Cube Build Along series we took a look at all the different sizes of cubes and how it affects each of the drafting formats and helps you to decide what size you'd like to build. So now in this episode we're going to be taking it one step further and looking at a cube skeleton in order to create a firm base for our cube. Hello and welcome to Life Begins at 20. My name is Mark and thank you so much for joining me. Now in the last episode of the Cube Build Along series, like I mentioned a moment ago, we took a look at all the different sizes of cubes and how it affects different drafting formats such as the glimpse draft, sight drafts, and how the larger cube gets increased variance over an 8-man drafting pod as well. So it helped for you to help decide what size cube you actually want to build yourself. If you haven't watched that video, there'll be a card on the screen now for you, so you can definitely check that out before carrying on with the rest of this video. As for the cube that I'm going to be building as part of the channel, there's going to be 405 cards in the cube, as this will help me to be able to do a 3-man glimpse draft, a 4-man sight draft with a little bit of variance, along with adding some variance into an 8-man drafting pod if I ever get the chance to do that with a new play group in the area. Now this could, this size may end up getting increased to 450 depending on the playstyle that actually produces, plus there may be some cards I want to put in, might be some cards I want to put out, so it'll evolve as we go through the course of this series, and I'm sure your cube as well will evolve as time goes on. So now we're going to be taking a look at the cube skeleton itself and how to make some decisions to really push this project a lot further forward. So the first major thing we need to do before really getting stuck into actually planning out this cube properly is to decide what type of cube we actually want to build. Now, this is a really major important step. Do you want to create a cube with all of the best cards throughout Magic's history in a more traditional style where it's going to be a singleton format? Do you actually want to create a themed cube? Is there a set or block that you really want to actually create a cube from itself? Or do you actually want to only have a monocolored cube or a multicolored cube itself? These decisions really do need to be made before we carry on any further, as the cube skeleton will change depending on what your answer is to all of these as well. So when I started brainstorming for this Pauper cube, it really wasn't a tough decision at all what I wanted to create. I wanted to have a cube which had the best cards available to me and my play group, consisting of the best monocolored cards available, plus also making sure that each 2-color guild had its theme actually playable in the decks as well. So once you've figured out what you'd like to do, the next step is to plan the cube skeleton. You can't build a strong house without solid foundations, and this is the same with cube. Now, this stage where we're creating the skeleton really does help to make sure that the cube is balanced. Well, at least in terms of colour equality anyway. There'll be nothing worse than one of your playgroup opening up in the pack one a really strong blue card, and then finding out as the draft goes on there wasn't an equal number of blue cards in the cube as to the rest of them, so they couldn't end up supporting it. This could be really frustrating for the players. So in this bit, we're actually trying to make sure that each colour has an equal number of cards. This is where the cube skeleton or template comes in. For a typical monocolored cube at 360 cards in size, you will find the following to be a good ratio of cards. 60 white cards, 60 blue cards, 60 black, 60 red, 60 green, 30 colourless and 30 non-basic lands. While these numbers aren't set in stone, it gives you an idea what you're looking for. You may find that you don't need that many non-basic lands for your idea, so you can add more colourless or more into each of the colours themselves. If you aren't planning to add any multicolored cards into your cube, well, you're done with the video, fantastic. You can then crack on with planning further and going into the next steps of creating the cube. Now, if you actually wanted to add some multicolored cards to make color defining pairs, so any of the 2-color guilds and then further forward, then definitely do check out the next section here. So as mentioned before, you want to add in multicolored cards into your cube. Say for example in Pauper, you want to add in Nivik Cyclops and Weak Druggernauts, which are both blue and red. You might initially think, well, I could just take out one red and one blue card and put both of these in and it'll be fine, right? Well, at first glance, having 59 red, 59 blue, and 2 red and blue cards might seem okay. You've just made that colour combination more powerful and restricted the monocoloured decks of these two colours, plus all the other pairings which each of these colours share. While some people may disagree with my opinion on colour equality in cubes, which I have no issues with at all, so definitely do comment in the comment section below what you feel about all of this, but I just want to make sure that people drafting my cube have an absolutely fair chance to create a deck with equal opportunity, versatility and power of all of the different two colour pairings. For this reason, I'd be looking at a skeleton of the following if you wanted to add in some multicolour aspects into your cube. So with 50 white cards, 50 blue, 50 black, 50 red and 50 green. Then for the multicolour section, we would have 50 multicoloured cards in total, which is 5 cards from each guild. Then we'll have 30 colourless cards and 30 non-basic lands. Again, these numbers can be adjusted depending on the number of multicoloured cards that you would like to support. I'd recommend if adding a card from a guild, add one to each of them and then take 2 cards out from each monocolour. That way the numbers overall are fair. Again, if you want to add cards from each shard or wedge combination, then removing an equal number of cards would also be needed. You can really go further with a multicoloured cube if you have no monocoloured cards in it at all if you wished. It would certainly give you a different gaming experience to a traditional or monocoloured cube. If this is something that you're interested in, then you might want to take a look at a skeleton which goes something like this. 20 of each 2 colour combination, i.e. the guilds, which is 200 cards in total, 7 of each Alara shard, which is 35 cards in total, 7 of each wedge combination, again which is 35 cards in total, 10 4-colour cards, 5 of the 5-colour cards or rainbow cards, 40 non-basic lands and 30 colourless or artifact cards themselves, which is 35 in total. This would add up to a grand total of 360 cards. So by using these as rough templates, you can increase or decrease the sizes of the cube while keeping these ratios to make sure the cube has an equal distribution to work from. Once you've decided on the size of your cube and how you're going to be distributing the cards, then we can start looking further on into the actual archetypes and decks themselves, plus all the other aspects that help us to build a solid foundation for the cube ready for building. So as mentioned earlier on in the video, the channel is going to be creating a Pauper Cube of 405 cards in size. Now my aim for it is to make sure I have access to some of the most powerful Pauper cards available to me, but I will not be including the likes of Strip Mine, Mishra's Factory or Maze of Ith because I just feel that they are too powerful, plus it also then helps to bring the cost down a little bit as well. I also wanted to make sure that each of the 2 colour guilds is well supported and their styles actually make an impact on the cube itself, while making sure all of the monocoloured colours are actually viable decks as well. So the following is the aim for the initial skeleton of the cube, which could change as we start to dive into cards and making cuts. So I'm aiming for 56 of each of the monocolours, so that'd be white, blue, black, red and green, making 280 cards in total there. I also want to include 55 multicoloured cards, which is 5 cards in each of the 2 colour guilds, plus having 1 card in each of the shard colours, plus then having 70 colourless cards in total, which includes 30 non-basic lands, which should make 405 cards in total. This is something that I'm aiming for with this cube, although, like I said, these numbers aren't set in stone and may well change as the cube is being built. So there we have what a skeleton is for a cube. It may well seem like a very simple process, but making sure that we spend a lot of time here planning all the different stages and all the different things that we want to have for this cube before actually buying the cards and putting something together will stand us in so much better stead going forward, and I definitely wouldn't recommend going into cube building blind. So do let me know in the comment section below what you've actually done for your cube, how you've decided to make up your cube itself. Are there certain cards that you've put in that are not necessarily the colour combination that you would initially think of? Is there a case of you actually had a plan to start with your cube skeleton and it's changed considerably? Or have you actually managed to keep the same skeleton itself and the same sizes? I would love to know in the comments section below. Also, what kind of cubes are you planning to create or have you created? Have you done the traditional monocolored cubes or singleton cubes, which is, a bit of monocolor, a bit of multicolored, or have you gone full multicolor? Have you gone for a themed cube? It'd be really interesting to find out again in the comment section below because I always like to hear that. Plus, definitely do give me your cube tutor links as well because I'd love to check out what you've built. In the next episode of the Cube Build Along series, we're going to be taking a look at the archetypes and deck types that we're going to hopefully try and create within this cube and how it affects then the decision making itself. I would just like to take this moment to thank my Patreons of the channel. I can't thank you enough for the help and support that you're giving me. If you'd like to do the same, head over to patreon.com/lifebegins@20 and there'll be a link in the description below for that as well, where there are plenty of rewards to choose from. With your support, we can really push to make this channel even better. If you enjoyed the video, hit that like button, and if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button for new videos every Tuesday and Friday. With your support, we can really help this channel to grow. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.